Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Wild Woman Podcast. And I was just saying to my beautiful guest today, who I will announce shortly, that she is the guest on my hundredth episode of Wild Woman Podcast. So I'm so delighted, and little did I think the journey that starting this would have brought me on 2 years ago. It's been such a journey of growth and learning and sharing and collaboration and connection. It actually makes me very emotional to talk about it. It's just been had such a profound impact on me, and I hope on you, the listener. I do get so much feedback from listeners on the impact guests are having on them because we are living through such a shift in consciousness and evolution on the planet right now that I think I know for me personally, I need all the support and help I can get. And I think we all do. And the more we talk about it, the more we support each other. And when the tough time comes, we know we can get through them and there's light at the end of the tunnel. So, just in honor of that as well, I just want to say that I will be sort of opening up a Patreon community. Just really a way for you, the listener, if you like the podcast, that you can support my work, but also it'll be an opportunity to do a deeper dive with the guests so that we can sort of come into community more and maybe offer like different sessions or discounts or an opportunity to meet with the guest in a smaller space or container. So there'll be lots happening there and I'll keep you informed. And my guest today is no different, who is going to be involved in some way or other as well, which I'm very grateful for. And her name is, finally, second time on the podcast, Lisa Wetsel from Oklahoma in America, in the United States. And Lisa is an Akashic Records consultant, which we will talk about. I'm sure she's blue in the face from talking about it because she's made so many appearances doing amazing work. So welcome, Lisa. Delighted to
Oh,
have you back.
gosh, my pleasure. I'm so excited to be on the 100th episode.
I know, so am I. So am I. I feel old
Yeah,
saying that, but I'm
yeah.
really delighted you're here. And I just want to say to people listening, if we'll touch on it, I don't want to sort of go over all of the same material we did in the first episode, an interview I did with Lisa, but so please do go back. It's on my channel, and Lisa gives a very thorough introduction into her work and the Akashic records, but we might do a very small little summary. Well, I will say just from listening to you, Lisa, and then you can correct me if I'm wrong, but in a very the image that came to me, even as I was listening back and thinking about it, of the Akashic field or the Akashic records, and I've heard you talk about it not just as a library, but like a holding tank or an airport, but it's sort of the records or the blueprint for our soul, like past and future. So all of this information. Now you can obviously correct me here now. I'm just going to give my little interpretation. But what struck me when you were saying it's sort of like it's running through everything. So I sort of think of like source, creator, and then all of the information that is governing my existence, my past, my future, my all of that is held in these Akashic records. And I get the image of a matrix or something, or a network, or like a grid of it. Would that be some way like holding all of this universe nearly together, this grid of information?
Well, yeah, I think you described it really well. So, yeah, I think that it's people, I don't think that it's really expressed how intricate the Akashic field is and what a role it plays in our everyday lives and in humanity and in the existence of all things.
Mm, okay, like it is very intricate. Like that's the feeling I was getting. Just this really grid of. We were talking just before we came on the podcast, which I find is quite interesting. The just the sort of interactions and the energetic patterns that are always there between us when we're talking to people and what we can maybe what we emanate. Like we may not always be aware. Like I may not be aware when I have an interaction with someone what is going on in me, my energy that maybe then is obviously intermingling with that person. So it's down to that level, isn't it? As well as,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, a lot going on.
It is. There is a lot going on. Absolutely.
Yeah. And in terms of it, so does it hold, you were saying it holds the sort of blueprint or the plan for our soul in this life. Would that be fair to say?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And how I was just thinking about that going in terms of our soul, my soul's journey or coming into this earth. How is it always the case that we complete on that? Like, I know there's free will and, so we can override it. But in most cases, like, is that possible? Is that potential there for all of us?
Yeah. So to complete our assignment,
Yeah,
okay. I'm just gonna channel it because
please.
I don't want to
Okay.
talk from my head. I don't trust my own answers. So,
Okay.
so what we want you to understand is that every human on earth has the ability to complete the assignment that was provided to their soul as they incarnated into the physical structure. But what we do want you to understand is that the human can get off-roaded. And what I'm seeing is that like we can get off the main path. We can take detours and go. There's showing me a dirt road going off into the woods. And so what we want you to understand is that if the human nature takes over from the mind's construct and detours the human in a way or direction that is not in alignment with the soul's pattern, then at this particular time they may not complete the full assignment. And this is what we want you to know.
Okay.
Does that answer your
Yes,
question?
yes. Yeah, and I mean it sort of strikes me, is that where we come up against a lot of like, I suppose they go the soul path versus our own personal path or the ego. So that's sort of, and I've heard you talk about, and maybe if you wouldn't mind just talking about maybe some of the signals, like it definitely feels like right now is a very accelerated time where if we're not on our path, we're sort of getting we're being bumped and getting the calls louder and louder. How does that work in terms of with the Akashic masters, or how is that orchestrated? That
Let me make sure. I need to make sure I understand the question. So, are you
if
asking at this particular time, are humans getting pushed back on their
yes,
path?
yes,
Absolutely.
yes. Well, it definitely
Yeah,
feels like it. That's
yeah,
definitely one part.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're saying so recognize what we have done or what we are doing is ripping the rug out from underneath you so that you can find your path in the way that is meant for you to be guided in. And so what we want you to understand is that breaking down the old constructs, ideas and belief systems of who you think you are or who you should be is finding a new way. We are dissolving the thoughts and the ideas of the notion of living in another's image and standing truly in your own. And this is what is significantly important at this time.
Okay.
Now, does
So
that make
yeah,
sense?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
it does.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And of course, I keep asking that because I don't always know what I'm saying. I want
Do
to make
you have
sure
a
you
sense
understand.
when you channel that through? Are you very aware yourself? Like, are you?
Well, yeah, but a lot of times I feel like I'm talking in circles. And so sometimes, I mean, I see all of the symbols and I get the visions and the feelings and all of it. But sometimes when the words come out of my mouth, I get a basic idea of what it is, but because my mind's not engaged, I'm not processing every word. And
Yeah.
so sometimes I'm not sure that it's coming out
Mm,
clearly.
yeah.
So, because it's not always clear in my head. It sounds like,
Yeah,
again,
I
it
can
sounds a
imagine.
lot of, yeah. Sometimes it feels like I say the same word 15 times when I really only said it twice or something. So,
Okay.
yeah, so that's why I
Okay.
always ask.
Well, no, I've heard that from people as well who, well, in different ways. Suppose they sort of have to, the person has to step back a bit and allow it through, the energy through. I don't know how that works. It does. And when you're saying it, what it really strikes me is that this journey, I sort of see it a journey of sovereignty, or each of us coming into our own unique expression is sort of counter to everything we've been programmed and conditioned to do since the day we were born. So it's a major undertaking to, and I've feeling it in my own life, this sort of really call, this voice, this really unique expression is like bursting of me out of me to get out. And yet another part of me is going, no, you can't be that. You can't do that. You can't say that. So it's like No, it's going to keep continuing, is it? If we're finding it difficult, this is the journey we've signed up to.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah. Well, just
Mm,
like you said, you're finding yourself in the position to want to say things,
mm,
and then your mind is telling you, no, you can't say that because, girls aren't supposed to say that. You're supposed to be this this proper person, and girls don't say
mm,
things like that, and you aren't supposed to express your feelings or your emotions
mm.
because it might ruffle feathers. And so what's happening is, you're living in the idea of somebody else's beliefs.
Yes.
Mothers told you, you don't talk like that, you don't say those things, you don't express your feelings, you need to hold them inside. Society, you don't act like that, you don't talk like that, you don't say those kinds of things. And so those are the outside factors that we're living in, which is not our true identity. We were, and I hate keep using the word programmed, but we
Mm,
really were. That these behaviors were ingrained in us, and so it's covered up that the trueness of who really are. Like you're saying, there's something inside of you that's like, I don't know, I need to share my voice, I need to share my opinions, I need to share my thoughts, because that's who you really are. That's that internal you. And then when you look at where, okay, your mind is telling you that no, you don't need to say that, this is what has to be broken down, and this is what we have to get accustomed to, and being able to share, to be able to live in what is that internal nudge or push that's pushing me to speak my truth.
mm,
That's
mm,
the truest essence of who we are. That's our true identity. So the mind is what's being broken down. And so, as long as you continue to live in others' ideas and thoughts and patterns, then it's going to keep coming to you. You're just going to keep having to bump up against it until you can start chipping away at it to where you get through it. And then all of a sudden, you're speaking freely and you have your own thoughts and your own patterns, and you're able to stand in that with confidence and with honor and not being fearful of it.
mm.
Does that make
Yes.
sense?
It does. Oh, it does. I can feel. How do we start to? I know you're sort of saying it there. It's sort of like coming down in here and listening to the voice inside as opposed to all of the outer. But it can be challenging, obviously, when we've had years of these. Do they just start to chip away? What I've noticed is some of these start to be what's the word, bumped up against so much, I've almost no choice but to do it, to just like,
Yeah.
is this it feels like it's happening organically anyways, or what can we do to support ourselves?
Yeah. Well, again, that's when the rug's getting ripped out from underneath us. And that's, the my guides always talk, you silly humans, the silly humans,
It's human.
they we're so stubborn. And it's like, no, this is the way that I was taught, this is the way it's supposed to be. So I got to stick in this. I'm going to do this, till the day I die. And we're so focused on that of staying the same,
Yeah,
that the
staying the
only way
same.
that we're
Yeah.
going to shift is to come, that I always see it break you down to your knees. And what I always see is that when we're broken, then we're like, God, please help me. When we're broken, then we ask for divine intervention. When we're broken, we ask for, we say our prayers and we ask for help and show me the way. But when everything's nice and smooth and everything is just moving along, then we just, stay in that same pattern because we're used to it. It's comfortable, and it just is what it is. So
Mm,
in order to break these old patterns, something has to occur that pushes us to a way of shifting that behavior. And a lot of times it has to be hard. It has to be something like, I know, like a cancer diagnosis,
mm, yeah.
or financial difficulties, or relationships ending, whatever it is, to really bring us down to this place of, I don't know what to do next. I can't keep living like this.
Because is that how that feels like is the way we're meant to live, is not know what's next,
Yeah.
like what you're saying. That seems to be what I have found since I had cancer is that I've literally not known what's next since then. And that
Yeah.
has served me.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's the
Yeah.
undoing, really, isn't it? When you
Yeah.
say when things are going with the flow, we're grand and we say, oh yeah, I'll keep going. Well, what's happening then? Is that a sign that we're very much on our path? Or is it just that we have periods where things sort of settle in?
Well,
Is
it
it just when we
depends.
veer off path that,
Yeah, it kind of depends. And they're saying recognize that you could have lived the pattern and the life that was meant for you up to that particular point. Lessons learned. Okay, now you recognize that it's time to break that karmic pattern or the energy pattern or the experience. You're done. And so what we want you to understand is that at that time, then things have to shift to get you out of that old pattern so that it can be resolved. And what I'm seeing is like this energy stream that hits a wall and it can't go through the wall. So this wall has to be brought down so that you'll separate from it and then you'll continue to move forward.
mm,
Okay. So now when you're talking about going with the flow and doing all of this thing, it depends on where you are in your process. Because this is a tricky question.
mm,
It's because there's so many different levels and dimensions of it. We can go with the flow, from the day that we're born, and we just go with the flow of, well, this is how everybody else has always done it, so I'm just going to do it. I don't want a disruption. I don't want to get uncomfortable, so I'm just going with the flow. Well, at that point, are you going with the flow because your brain's telling you that this is the way that you should live, or is it an internal knowing? Okay, so there's that's two
yes,
different ways of seeing
yes,
going with the flow, you know.
yeah, I get,
Okay,
yeah.
but when you start shifting and breaking off these patterns that the mind's holding on to and start going more inward and going with the internal flow, it's a little bit different than just trying to take the easy road.
Yeah.
Don't create conflict, don't cause problems, not going to create change because change is too hard. That's all from the human mind construct. But when I start digging in and start moving away from these old belief systems and these old patterns, and I start breaking them down and getting into my soul's content, my soul heart content, then we're at a different level. And it's a different experience in going with the flow. And so so what we want you to understand is that going with the flow on the eternal level, the spiritual, that construct level, is much more simplistic than what the human created in their idea of what the flow is. The simplicity of going with the flow of nature, or the organics of spirituality, the consciousness of all things, the wholeness of who you are. Everything is already embedded within you, so there's no effort to try to figure out, to control, or to manipulate. And so, what we want you to understand is that the more that you stay in that pattern of oneness, the more that you can see life for the purity of what it is, resonate and stand in the truth of all things, and all will fall into place exactly as it's meant to from the consciousness of the universe and not what the mind creates. Does that make sense?
Wow, yeah, yeah, that's really powerful. Yeah,
Okay.
that's really, really powerful. I love what you say about the organic, natural. I always find when you're just sort of connecting with the natural world is such a way to, for me anyways, to understand that more.
Yeah.
There's a sort
Yeah.
of a rhythms and, but it's an inner listening. I know what you're saying, as opposed to, oh, the crowd are doing that, so I will go
Yeah.
with the flow with them. I'll go with the flow.
Yeah.
Why, I mean, maybe this sounds a very obvious question, but why why is it so important right now that we all do this? And so what is the downside if we don't? Well, like we'll suffer. But why particularly now? I know we're going through an evolutionary stage.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so what we want you to understand is that at this particular time, there is a shift in consciousness that is allowing elevation for all consciousness to raise. We want you to see that the earth is just they're saying it's a microcosm in the macro. And so what we want you to understand is that the earth holds the most devastating power at this particular time. And so what we want you to understand is that the earth's energy needs to shift to a higher elevation of consciousness so that all can reside in peace, meaning from the earth and all of the galaxies, all the planets, all of the things. But earth is, they're saying earth is the disruptor.
Mm.
And so what we want you to see is that there have been many disruptors that have been put in place throughout time on earth that has created the evolution to create a need for peace. So what we want you to understand is that all has been put in place, and now is the time to allow human consciousness to shift in a way that is more beneficial, not only for mankind, but all of creation. Does that
Mm.
make sense?
Yes, yeah. But when you
Okay.
say Earth is the sorry, yeah, the
Yeah.
disruptor,
Yeah.
just maybe explain that a bit more when you say Earth as the.
Okay. This is a fun question. I've never had this come up before. So basically what I'm seeing is that, like when Earth was created, Earth was just doing its thing. It was just this beautiful place where the oceans were, and then you had water and you had land, and it had this atmosphere, and everything was harmonious. Everything was flowing in rhythm. And then, plants were created, life was created, and everything was in balance. Everything understood what it relied on in order to survive. We understand, you have to have water to survive. Mammals have to have, the earth, the dry ground, where the aquatic life had to have water. All of these things are intertwined. Everything plays a part in the existence of all things. Then what we want you to understand is that the disruptors came in by energy patterns from outlying beings that came into the Earth's frequency and disrupted and created chaos and created mankind to become more in conflict with each other than in a way that it's ever been before. And this has just escalated to a place to where it's no longer tolerable.
Mm,
Okay,
yeah,
does that make sense?
it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now again, I mean, a lot of people are not really into the galactic stuff. I didn't used to be, but I'm listening a little bit more these days. So I understand it to a different level, and also because now I channel the Lyrans now. I'm very
Yes,
much
I've.
a part of the Lyrans now, so that's kind of opened up a whole new world. But what the point is that if you are part of understanding the galactic species, and it's almost like they came to Earth as what is it? It's more like a test run to see what they could get away with. And it's like there were power brokers that came to Earth because they knew that they could get away with controlling others in a way that they couldn't in different parts or different dimensions of the universe. And so this became a place of destruction due to the fact that the thoughts and the ideas of other consciousnesses and other species could come in and create what their idea is or was. That's what began to happen. And so what I'm hearing is the word hijack. I don't really know. I mean, that's
Mm.
kind of a big word, but basically these outside forces and energies came in and started creating power struggles, which created the thoughts and the ideas of conflict and fighting on earth, to where there was a power over another. And if you really start looking at, if you really look at the basic foundation of power, it typically always, I'm not going to say always, it typically has to do with one entity controlling another, suppressing one another and controlling another to force their agenda, on whatever they're trying to control, and forcing those that they're controlling to fall into their patterns, their wants, and their desires. Okay, we see this all the time.
Mm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if you go back through history and you start looking at wars and kings trying to take territory, kings controlling the peasants, the rich controlling the poor, the servants, slavery, all of these different things. These were all examples of the controlling power, and how this idea of controlling one another became desirable to those in power. And so, what we
Mm.
want you to understand is that the thought and the idea of breaking down this power structure is where we are today. And the meaning of doing this is to allow all human beings to be on an equal level without the control of one another. And recognize how simplistic your daily life may be, but how do you control another with your behavior? And how do they control you? So understand that there is an unwinding, or I'm seeing untwisting of the thoughts and the ideas of the control that one might have over another, even in the most minute way. And this is what we're unraveling.
So we sound like we're all infected with, I just sort of, I get
Absolutely.
this when you're speaking going, oh my God, it's almost a part of in our DNA when we're born in here nearly, is it? We sort of come in with that instinct nearly, I need to not consciously control, but it seems there's very few people, even if you think you're not doing it, we are all
Yeah.
in some way nearly, are
Oh,
we?
always.
Yeah,
I mean, look at
always.
relationships. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, relationships are I want
Mm,
you to treat me this way. And
mm,
if you don't treat me this way, I'm going to threaten you.
yeah. Yeah. Just sort of
So by and
codependent. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it can be, it can be a parent-child relationship. It can be a friendship relationship. It can be on so many different levels of how how we we try to control one another, and that they need to. I mean, look at the earth right now. You have to think like me, and if you don't think like me, then I'm going to try to overpower you.
I know it seems to be
It's
at an extreme level now. It's
yeah, and
become
that's why it's being pushed to where we will break. It is having to get to this level so that we will start falling away from these patterns and this energy, so that we'll start looking at ourselves and recognize, wait a second, this doesn't fit me anymore. I'm going to go down here into my heart and my knowing. Sart, that's the soul and heart.
oh, I like that.
Sart.
It's sort of the one, that's sort of the one. Oh, I
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, the one that's obviously that was a mistake. So I just
I
made that
like the
part
way
up.
you taught that. Yeah, it's nice.
Sorry. Okay, so anyway, but this is why it's important that this we have to get pushed to the point now. We have to, and we are getting pushed to the point of, what are my beliefs? How do I view one another? How do I separate myself from you when we're both soul beings? We're both have a heart. We're all here as equals. But I'm better than you because I think a certain way. I have a different income, so I'm better than you. I live in a bigger house, so I'm better than you. I drive a fancier car, so I'm better than you. And every time that we think about that, even that idea, that's controlling. That's putting somebody else down, and it's putting a label on them, and it's suppressing them.
Yeah.
And if you start really looking around at the earth and how many people have been suppressed because of who they are, where they live, their economic value, and that I look down on you, so therefore I am that controller. I am holding you down. And so
Hmm.
we don't even look at it that way. We look at it, like it has to be this great big grand thing, and we don't see that in our everyday life we're creating this imbalance of being superior or inferior, because not only these people that are being suppressed, even if they're being suppressed, they're still trying to control somewhere in the scenario. I mean, if they can be the ones that are saying, well, this person has this much money, and so they're mean, they're
Yes.
horrible because they have this income. And so, I'm different from them. I mean, we can look at different parts of the country. We look at this. If you live in a different part of the world than me, then I'm less than you or I'm better than you.
Yeah.
And again, you've got to look at from every single perspective. If I'm being held down, there's some feelings that I have about those that are suppressing me.
Yes.
If I'm the one that's doing the suppressing, it's like, so it goes on so many different levels of the back and forth. But if we can start breaking down this thought and the idea of anybody being better than anybody, or anybody being superior or inferior, good or bad, the labels, if we can throw away the labels and look at the individual and the perfection that we all are, in this perfection, we are all equal. And that's what the universe is working on, breaking us down to see that regardless of your past, regardless of the things that have been called mistakes, the idea of not being perfect, it's all an illusion. They're saying it's all untruths. And they're saying, because what we want you to understand is that every experience that a human has had has been in relationship with its soul. So, what we want you to see is that the idea of someone telling you that you are inferior or aferior, I don't know what,
What's
there's
that?
another new made up word, inferior or above ferior.
Okay.
Um,
Not
you know,
superior. No.
yeah, superior. That's the name. That's the word.
Come on, Akashic Masters.
Inferior. Okay, so
Superior.
but what we want you to understand is that the idea of the illusions of falling is imperfect is not the truth. And I get this all the time. We're so programmed to believe that we as humans are imperfect. And it's
Mm.
not the truth. We are perfect exactly as we are. That old saying, nobody's perfect. I can't be perfect. Who's perfect? Nobody's perfect.
Mm.
So, but the thing about it is that this is the human construct, because you're imperfect because you may have gone through some struggles. You made some choices that created some chaos. You're not perfect because you may have an addiction. You're not perfect because you said the wrong thing. You're not perfect because you acted. Okay, well, when we start looking at all of that, again, it's the thoughts and the ideas that society has put on us, that these are how people are supposed to act.
Mm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if I don't fit society's expectation or somebody else's expectation of who I should be, then I'm a failure and I am not perfect. But on the different construct, on the spiritual aspect of who we are, we're living a journey. Our soul had an assignment. I took in this beautiful soul. The soul chose me. I'm just encasing this soul, and the soul has an agenda. And so, if the soul needs chaos, if the soul needs addiction, if the soul needs homelessness, then, and having to go through these experiences, then me as this physical human is honoring the experience that my soul has to have. Does that make me imperfect? Absolutely not. I am living my life exactly as my soul needs me to live it. So, how can I say that I'm imperfect? I am perfect. You might not like how I'm living my life, and you might call me imperfect, but what I need to know is nope, I'm exactly as I am. Did I learn some lessons along the way? Yep. Would I do some things over again? Nope. Okay, so I've learned the lessons, but guess what? As I've learned the lessons, my soul has achieved their assignment. So
Wow.
I am aiding, and they're laughing and saying aiding and abetting the soul's agenda. And so what we want you to understand is that the thought and the idea that somebody's imperfect is a misbelief that humans created in order to stand and abide by their rules and regulations. But on the deeper level of consciousness, you'll begin to recognize that there is no such thing as imperfection. It is always perfect. Everything that happens to an individual is meant to happen, and it is created as an experience, is not good or bad. And again, that's another thing that humans have created. What's
Yeah.
good and what's bad?
Mm.
If it's
Mm.
uncomfortable, it's bad. If everything is great and I'm laughing and having a good time, it's good because I'm having a good time. But that's not how this whole thing works. We're having experiences. If I have to struggle, it's not bad. And it's an experience that I had to have in order to get to a different direction or a different place. Everything that's coming down and falling down on us now that's making us come down to our knees, it's not bad. It's an experience that I have to change directions.
Yes. Yeah. And did many of us choose to have difficult or whatever experiences like addiction or grief or in the lead up to now? My sense is so that, there are different waves, I suppose, of people at different stages of growth and evolution, so that we would be prepared. Is that played a part in it, that souls came in and said, okay, I'm going to experience some of these really challenging things so that I'm nearly initiated into this time and I'm ready to, does
Absolutely.
that make, yeah,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. Yeah, I guarantee you, I have never been a drinker. I don't like the taste of alcohol. I've never wanted to smoke. I hate the taste of smoke. The idea of taking drugs or alcohol to shift my consciousness or that takes me out of who I am right now, I've I've always been, nope, it's really important for me to stay in my physical body. I don't want to drink. Now, I'm not saying it's bad. So but my
mm,
point is that I guarantee you I was an alcoholic sometime in past life. I
wow,
guarantee you that I was a drug addict sometime in my past life. I guarantee you I've already been through all of this, and that's why in this life it's not something that I desire to do. I
yes,
guarantee you. So I've broken that energy pattern so that I don't have to relive it.
yes, yeah.
So people that are experiencing these patterns and these things, and also if you look at a lot of these types of behaviors, there's other instigating factors, emotional issues,
Mhm.
things that people are dealing with where they want to escape. There's so many different things that are contributing factors. Just to say that somebody, has an addiction and label it, well, they're an addict. Well, wait just a minute, you
Mm,
need to back up here because there's a
yeah,
lot more to it than just putting
yeah.
that label on somebody.
Yeah, I think it keeps you limited the more you label, because
Absolutely.
it's saying you now have to live within the confines of that, as opposed to when you know truly who you are, you can free yourself and heal from anything,
Yeah, yeah,
depending on,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, and that's one of the things that the masters say constantly is that what's happening is the labels are being removed.
Gosh,
We're
but we
removing
seem
the
to be
labels.
labeling more than ever. But
Yeah, and so until we're not,
until we're not, I
until we're
suppose.
not. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so again, I think that there's been a lot of labeling, throughout centuries again,
yeah,
and again, that's why we are where we are today. But again, the way that it's in our face now is different probably than what it's been in the past. The because we're changing as humans, and if you look back through time, I mean, even looking at, from 1900 and the way that women were viewed in 1900, couldn't vote, you know, and our thoughts have started shifting and changing throughout the time periods, and you can start recognizing, well, women got the right to vote. Oh, women actually can think. Women can do other things than just stay at home and do the dishes and clean house. Now, we can get a loan, a home loan. We could have a credit card. So when you start looking at how we as humans have evolved in different ways to become more accepting in certain things. Now it's to the point of where, okay, we only got so far. So now that they're laughing and said, we're going to shove it down your throat until you recognize what can be broken within you so that you can see things differently. But if you really start looking at generations, like when I was born in the 60s, and the belief systems about one another and people and how we labeled people in the 60s and 70s is very different than what we are today. And what I've seen is that, my kids raise their kids different, their kids raise their kids different, so we're actually breaking down these the and giving people more freedoms or more acceptance, I guess is a good way to
yeah,
see it. But again, that energy that wants to stay that controlling and fitting in the box and you have to be this way, that's what's rearing its head, and that's what's pushing down the idea of freedom, of being
Mhm.
exactly who I am and who I want to be and being accepted and being honored in that. So you can see where this it's like we're moving in different directions. More and more freedoms and acceptance are getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So these factions over here that are wanting to control and manipulate and put you in their box, they're having to come, and this is where the conflict, because that's
Mhm.
feeling threatened now. And
Mm.
so this is where the conflict is coming in, where I have to, universally, that freedom has got to bust up and break up this energy that's wanting to be that strong power, that, the same thing that what we've been trying to
Yeah.
break down. And
Yeah.
so the more of us that turn into this way of, God, can we not just live our lives and be happy?
Mm.
Can we not just play
Follow
more?
our heart and do, yeah,
Can we
yeah,
not do this?
enjoy
So
life.
what's
And mm.
happening is that the more and more of us that fall into that, this energy gets stronger and stronger and stronger. This energy is going to want to fight more and more because they're fighting for their lives. They're fighting
Yes.
for their identity. They're fighting for their power. And this is what's happening on the earth right now. You can see it very clearly.
Mm. But
And
it's,
so, but the more of you and I do our work, the more of us that get into this place of removing the labels and moving that construct, then that freedom energy is going to overpower the control energy. It's just the point of we're at that peak right now of the conflict.
yeah, but
Does that
what
make
sounds
sense?
it does in what you're saying, what's really positive. I haven't heard it put that way, that the freedom and rather than feeling like, oh my God, the control is getting it and the conflict is getting so much worse, which it is, but it's almost from what I'm hearing when you say it's in response to the fact that the freedom energy is growing so big, which is a really positive thing, that more and more people are finding their own voice and their own following their heart. That's what I'm hearing is happening, which is
Yeah,
brilliant if
yeah,
that is the
yeah,
case, rather than
yeah,
focusing on. So the more that we're doing this, the more it is going to get louder, um, which is what's happening. How do we, and I know in one level, I know probably the answer to this is, as you said, that each of us, or the Akasha saying that each of us do our own work and follow our heart and follow our joy. How do we, this is something I find, and I've heard a lot of people talk about, which can be challenging, is balancing. I suppose you've talked about the untruth. So, in following your own freedom and not wanting to feed the conflict, but also knowing when to stand in your truth, how is there something they have to say about that? How we navigate this time that we don't lose connection with our heart, but we also stand up to what we know to be untrue or controlling. What would
Well,
they?
you have to watch watch the energy pattern that is creating the conflict within your own being.
Okay.
Okay, so what we want you to understand is that if you find yourself finding a place of fight, then you're going to recognize that that energy needs to be looked at and feel why. Okay, so first of all, when it's like you need to recognize what you're really fighting for. Are you fighting again the same reason why the people over here are fighting for control? Are you fighting for control? Okay.
Mhm.
So my control is my way. Okay. So we might be on different ends of the spectrum, but if these people over here are fighting for their control and then I start fighting for my control, it's the same energy. It's just coming from different ideologies.
Yes.
Okay. So you have to recognize where the fight is coming from and why is it that you're wanting to fight, or who and what is your identity if you choose to be this way, because they're saying it's still the masculine energy. So, what we want you to understand is that it's extremely important for you to find the truth and the wholeness of who you are. And then you recognize that the energy that is standing within you is the love energy that is the fullest capacity of who you are. And you recognize that the individuals that are around you, regardless of what they're representing, stand in alignment with the oneness of all things. When you find the power that is within the wholeness of the universal consciousness, you will begin to recognize that that is the energy that will shift all sides.
Okay.
Does that make
Okay.
sense?
It does. Yeah. And some of your it sort of coming back to that place of peace and wholeness and resolving our own traumas. Is it all of that so that we're living in a sense of more joy and connected to our heart?
Yeah. Yeah. And, this is really hard for people to
Mm,
understand because, we're still, well, it's, if I'm going to fight you and you're going to fight me, then that's still that control energy. Right back where we started from. It's the control energy. But if I can be the observer and watch what's going on here and then recognize, wow, I'm feeding on this energy. And although that I don't agree with that side, and I think that this is the way that it should be, I'm right. And it's making me get stirred up in my belief systems, my programming, that I have to act or react this way. Now, that that's kind of a tricky road because they're saying what we want you to understand is that you have to define what is the programmed belief and what is the truest essence of who you are. What we want you to understand is that when you get into the truest essence of who you are, you see the equality in all things, all sides, understand the objective of each mission, and you will become more whole in understanding who you are as a human and what role you're meant to play. And what you'll begin to find is that you become neutral in both sides and stand more in the truth of who you are, which they're laughing, which will gain popularity in the future. And you'll begin to understand that the energy that you are holding on to is the energy of love, which will change mankind.
mm,
Does that
okay.
make sense?
It does. It does. It is. Yes, it does. It does. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel that what I still say when you go back to the very beginning and you were saying this energy pattern or whatever that came into the earth, and the earth, what you described it, I hope we return to that beautiful
Yeah.
flowing nature, everything,
Yeah.
and a pattern that came in this sort of power dynamic and controlling. So did that come in to almost not remind us, like it sounded like it was a beautiful place. So why were we, sorry, I don't mean to go back to that question at the beginning, that we were almost prey, is it, to that, and that our only way back to that is not to fight what came in but to return to, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because the act of
Yeah.
the things, well, like this energy came into the planet, so how do we clear that?
It's they're laughing and saying it's being cleared.
Okay, we
It
don't have to
is.
worry about
Yeah.
that.
Well, and so here's the thing about we've got so many helpers out here. Oh my
Mm,
gosh, these beautiful galactic creatures, human, well, they're calling it humanoids. There's so many different helpers between the angel realm, the spiritual construct, and the galactic beings that are assisting shifting this human consciousness. There's no one alone. There is no one that's alone. And recognize that the humans, like me, like you, we're doing our own work. We're recognizing that, oh, I see something that is an energy pattern that I need to shift in me, where so I can shift and change into a greater understanding of what's happening universally. Okay, so we're doing our work, and then by being able to share these messages, we're helping heal wounds. We're helping others to shift there. So it's like, even though you may not do things the same way that I do, or anybody else do the same way that I do, we're all different. We all have our own unique gifts. But what the point is that we are shifting and changing. I am shifting and changing. And, we had talked earlier. I made the commitment to work on myself to become the human being that is of this light. I accepted the assignment to do this journey, and I'm doing it willingly. I'm doing it without fear. I understand that there's a lot of shifts and changes that happen in relationships and ways of being and living and all that stuff by going down this road. It's not an easy road. It's hard and it's lonely. But I accepted the assignment. So if I become who I'm intended to be, which is of this beautiful essence of the love light, then I'm going to shift the people that are around me because they're going to be in and they're going to absorb my energy pattern, which is love. and it's going to help them find the identity of who they are. So not only do we have all these beautiful beings that are around us and that are, surrounding us and assist us, there's humans on earth that are playing the roles as well. And this is what we're here for. This is why we're going through all of the crazy life patterns that we've been through, to
Mm,
get to this point of being able to shift ourselves to assist others. And
yeah.
then we start seeing more and more and more and more people become that individual that's standing in their purest essence. And so when you think about, if we can get to this point, and believe me, it has been a road. I'm 61 years old. I've been doing this for 30 years. 30 years. I didn't just start this, and it's been a road. It's been a journey. But the point of it is that, number one, I'm not the only person that's doing this. There's people all around the world that are sitting in the position that I'm in. But I've had glimpses and I understand, and I have these moments where I can shift into this beautiful way of being in my physical body. I understand what's happening. I get it. And for me to be able to stand in this and get this, then I can share with you. It's not scary, because the biggest thing that humans have is fear, and fear of change, and then walking into a place of the unknown. If I choose to shift and change and go into this, well, what's my future going to be like? Am I going to lose my family? Am I going to lose my
Yes.
identity? Who am I going to be? What's the world going to be like? Because right now I'm in control. And even if I'm not happy, I understand what's going on. And so this transition and part of all this process is really being able to look at, am I ready and am I willing to let go of the way things are and move into a new way of being with trust, knowing that it is going to be my nirvana, my happy place. Is it going to, am I going to be able to walk into this and be safe?
Yeah.
And this is where the big transition is happening at this particular time. We're getting these glimpses and visions, but are we willing to let go of where we currently are and move into this new place? And that's the next step of this transition for all of us.
And is that coming soon? Like if you're looking ahead, I know it's hard to say and it's a process, but even looking ahead, I get this feeling, I don't know why, but and I've heard it said like a purification event without sounding very, I don't mean that in a big catastrophic
Oh,
way, but sort
yeah,
of a
but I get it.
cleanse. It feels like
Yeah,
something, and even over the coming months, I mean, all of the astrology talks about it with this big conjunction coming up in February of
yeah,
Saturn and Neptune. There's lots of things happening.
sure.
Like, what even is there anything that they can say about that that will even just, I suppose, inspire and support people to say, look, we're on track, it's okay.
Yeah. Well, it's been happening. They're
Mm,
saying it's been happening since 2012.
mm.
That's when it was happening before that, but that's like when they're laughing and say that's the official start date.
Oh, I remember that 2012.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we're going through this process, what we want you to understand is that over the next 6 months is going to be significant in the way that humans begin to view themselves, the physical structure of who they are, and allowing old energy patterns to be released. So, what we want you to understand is that the significance of the earth energy is shifted and changed. It opened up in September. We want you to recognize that the way that the earth is shifting and the gravitational pull is shifting, the environmental aspects of the earth is elevating to a higher frequency. Everything is shifting, and in order for the humans to become more in alignment with who they're meant to be, recognize once again that it's the human structure that causes the resistance or the the resistance or the release. So we want you to see again, this is where the mind's construct must be recognized, and how to use it to let go of control, or to keep it in place. And so this is what we want you to understand that's coming. And again, I mean, I think that October and November, are going to be big ones.
Yeah, in terms of
It's,
clearing a lot of,
yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of stuff that's happening on the planet that is going to really push us to look at, who am I and who do I want to be? And so
Mm,
if you haven't gotten to there to this that at this time, then it's going to start happening to you. It's going to be more consciously, you're going to be more consciously aware that you need to make choices and decisions and make things and changes. And again, people have a tendency to look at this as a global thing, the wars, politics. People need to stop looking at that. I'm not talking just about that. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about what's happening within you, your life, your experiences, what's going on within you. Now, the outside world, the wars and all of this, they may be triggers and they may be instigators for you to look at yourself, for you to get a better picture and a better perspective. But it's all coming down to what it's even if the wars ended today, that's not the answer. The answer is within us. We have to make the changes.
mm,
And that's what we're
mm,
moving into. That's what's happening. So if you haven't gotten there yet, that's where we're moving. People that have done their work, that are further down their path, they're going to find what I'm seeing as a step. They're going to step up. They're moving to a greater understanding of who they are and what's meant to be. So it's like everybody's going to be elevated in some way, shape, or form. Again, we may be on different rungs of the ladder, but
mm.
everybody's going to have something that happens and shifts and changes them. And they're saying by January and February, it's going to be a monumental change within the human nature.
Human nature. So even in how individually we are and understand ourselves.
Yeah,
Okay. And does that mean like new abilities? I presume it does as well. It
it all
can
comes
be
with it.
like, yeah, yeah, you can
Yeah.
feel that. Just one final question, because I know I'm very conscious of your, yeah, your time. Just when you talked about being Lyran, and is it, I know it's not necessary, but can people tune in, in terms of looking for support, and sometimes this road can be lonely, to who your galactic origin or family are? How do people go about doing that? Like, I don't know if they can tell me my galactic origin, or are we all just mixed race or what?
Yeah. Well, we are. They're saying they're laughing. They always use the term Heinz 57. You're like a mutt. It's like you've got, we all have a variety of different species that we're connected to. But what we do want you to know is that the species that is in alignment with you, all of you, they will be coming forward as it's needed. And so what we want you to understand is that the more open that you are, again, the more you get out of your head, the more that you open up space for them to be received, you'll recognize that the guidance will be given with your knowledge and understanding, and it will not be a guess.
It will not be a
You
guess.
will know what's happening. And again,
Okay.
this whole, I always laugh about, because the everybody's talking about when are the galactic beings going to make open contact? Oh my God, do you know how many people are speaking light language now?
Yes, you are. Yeah.
And
But
it's
this
like,
is their way of communicating.
and it's
Yeah.
what I always laugh about is that, like 2 years ago, man, I might have known one person that did light language. I mean, it's in my little world, and now it's almost like, oh well, you're not doing light language yet. Wait, you will. It's coming. And so what's interesting is that, this is our connection. This is our galactic connection. And people, it's coming on with people like crazy. I mean, it's going to be like this is how we're going to start communicating. I will bet
Mm,
money that you and I are going to start having
mm,
conversation in the
mm.
future, and it's all going to be in light language.
Wow. And did
We're
that
going to
just come
understand.
online very quickly for you? Did that just appear
Yeah.
very,
Well, it's kind of a story. It started
yeah.
coming on in
Okay.
2015, but I didn't know why my hands were moving, and so it's like stop.
Uh,
And so basically, I suppressed it,
yes.
and I did have a person that opened my throat up because we all do long history of throat stuff, being suppressed, can't speak your truth,
Yes.
and I've been working on opening up my throat for quite some time, years and years and years and years. Well, apparently it finally got to the point, the last thing that I did, she worked on my opening up my throat and creating the ability to say the words. But it lasted for about 3 days. And then there was lots of energetic things that started shifting and I started seeing codes start lighting up in my physical structure. I went to an event, a drumming, and my tongue started pulsing, like I could physically feel my tongue shaking. And this, anyway, all kinds of stuff. So it's just
Mm.
started coming through. I started, after that happened, the drumming, I started whispering. The words were coming through me in a whisper. And then all of a sudden, then it started speaking, and they haven't gone quiet yet. But it's, anyway, it had huge downloads. I had three huge downloads from the Lyrans, where like my whole body was shaking and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, I way too much to talk about. But anyway, so it's been a process, but it came on really quickly, even though it started in 2015 and it was a long process. It's like once that I was ready and I was ready to be able to, my body could physically hold it, it came on like that. I mean, the whole thing from the time that I started seeing the codes and my hands started moving to the time where it was full on, it was probably a month.
Wow.
Came on that
Mm.
fast. Yeah.
Wow.
But again, but I also channel already. And so I already know how to surrender and do that. So I think that that was an advantage, but it came on quickly and it was
Okay.
a big initiation. And the Lyrans had to introduce themselves to me and do all that. But this has been to this level for about the last 6 months. And again, I mean, it's happening to people this fast.
Mm.
It's amazing.
So it's
And
happening much faster now, it seems, than like you're saying you're 30 years doing a lot of work, but
yeah,
it can
yeah.
happen. Yeah, I've noticed fu just funny things, not funny things, but different things that are happening. But it's very interesting what you say about the throat. It just brings me back to what you've been saying all along, or the Akashic Masters about, focusing on ourselves and doing the work on ourselves. That, this is what can come online, and it's the support, I suppose, that I was often thinking of as well. So if we're open to that, they can come in and support us. But you're
And they
saying they'll
will.
reveal themselves,
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
we're ready.
And again, I am not the expert in this by any
Uh,
means. Again, this just happened. I mean, I've been doing this for 6 months, and
wow.
I've never been. I mean, I didn't try to do it. So but there are people that teach light language, and so I know that there's ways to go through processes. I didn't do it; it just happened. So I think everybody's different. But if somebody's interested in finding out more details, I am not the expert by any means. There,
Well, you're
there are,
doing it though,
yeah, the
and that's,
experts are out there. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay. And like on that, sorry, and I will let you go now. If somebody the galactic origins, like the Palladians, the Lyrans, that's obviously quite different to say if you'd like Mary Magdalene or the Masters or different people coming in. Are they different levels of, how would you describe the difference?
What I'm hearing is different dimensions.
Different dimensions.
So
Okay.
they exist in different dimensions and fields of consciousness.
Okay.
Okay, so like the Mary Magdalene energy, angel energy, um, like what you're talking about, they're in a level of consciousness. The galactic beings are actually physical structures, and
Okay.
that they're coming in a different wave or a different understanding than what the levels of consciousness are. Now, does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So the galactics are a different energy form
okay. And they're
than
doing different
what.
work with us as we evolve, even as it physically as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Recognize that that's the case.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. I'm very conscious of your time, Lisa. My God, there's so many things to talk to you about, but another time again, because I'm very grateful to you, Lisa, for coming on for a second time. If people want to get in touch with you, it's your website, isn't it? For Lisa Wetzel dot
LisaWetzel.com and
lisawetzel.com.
my YouTube channel
And
as
her
well.
yeah, your YouTube channel. I'll put all the links here, and keep an eye out, people, as well, for the Patreon community, which I'll be talking about. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and like, if you do, to have more beautiful guests like this, their wisdom shared far and wide. Thank you so much, Lisa. Really appreciate your time today, and
This is absolutely my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
really welcome. And take care for now. Take care, everybody. Until the next time.